Throughout his gospel, the anonymous author known as Matthew is intent upon presenting Jesus as a Moses-like figure. In his account of the Transfiguration, Jesus' face shines like Moses' did. And in the Transfiguration account, Moses is named before Elijah. Biblical scholars agree that it is impossible to say exactly what really happened in this event in Jesus' ministry. Mediterranean culture, however, offers us some helpful insights. Matthew chapter 17, verses 1 through 9. Jesus took Peter, James, and John his brother, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as light. And look, Moses and Elijah appeared to them, conversing with him. Then Peter said to Jesus in reply, "Lord, it is good that we are here. If you wish, I will make 3 tents here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." While he was still speaking, look, a bright cloud cast a shadow over them. Then from the cloud came a voice that said, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." When the disciples heard this, they fell prostrate and were very much afraid. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, "Rise, and do not be afraid." And when the disciples raised their eyes, they saw no one else but Jesus alone. As they were coming down from the mountain, Jesus charged them, "Do not tell the vision to anyone until the skyvald man has been raised from the dead." Let's explore the cultural background of this story. Honor is the main Mediterranean cultural value, and it's on display in this account of the Transfiguration, big time. Jesus demonstrated power over demons, and that gave him a solid claim to honor in his culture. This ability stood in contrast to his known origins. Remember in the Gospel of John, Nathanael's sarcastic question to Philip, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" In other words, Nazareth was seen as a nothing place of nothing people. Consider power and shame. Jesus' power over demons also placed him in jeopardy. No one, not even his enemies, ever denied the reality of this power. But many Israelite leaders wondered about the source of Jesus' authority. Where do you get this authority? Who gave you this authority? Some concluded that Jesus was in cahoots with the devil. If Jesus does not possess legitimate power and authority, then he is arrogating to himself something to which he has no right. That would be very shameful. To complicate matters, power belongs to the realm of politics. In the Gospels, Jesus' healings and exorcisms are viewed by all, friend and foe alike, as political activities. This is the concern behind the puzzlement in Matthew chapter 21, verse 23. Folks, unapproved political activities could lead to an Israelite's death. Jesus was not unaware of these potential consequences of his ministry. The Matthean Jesus says to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things from the elders and chief priests and the scribes, and be killed, and on the 3rd day be raised. Fully accepting the risk of his ministry, Jesus was also convinced that God would grant him ultimate honorable vindication. He would be raised by God. What an honor that is! Now consider the Transfiguration and how it's described in the Gospel called Matthew. Only this anonymous author we remember as Matthew refers to this experience as a vision. But you know, this is a most important piece of information. Modern psychological anthropology points out that alternative states of consciousness, like visions and dreams, are normal, pan-human experiences common to the majority of the world's cultures. But cultures in which these are not so common, except by way of dreaming while you're asleep, or under the influence of a substance, these would be cultures like our contemporary United States culture, the Baltic cultures. These are the anomalous cultures that have to be explained. They're not the normative ones. In Matthew's version of the Transfiguration, Jesus is obviously experiencing an alternate state of consciousness. Peter, James, and John are participants in this experience, during which they gain a clearer understanding of Jesus as one who lived on the brink of shame all the time, but still maintained a position of favor with the patron God of Israel. In all cultures, altered states of consciousness are normal means of learning otherwise impossible to gain new information. These three chosen disciples realized that, contrary to occasional appearances and impressions, Jesus was an honorable person whose activities were pleasing to God. Jesus' firm conviction that God would restore his honor by raising him from the dead was not a simple whistling in the dark. Instead, it was rooted in God's steadfast loving kindness, experienced in alternate reality. In Matthew's lifetime, many actual and potential Mediterranean believers in Jesus were troubled by his shameful death. If this man's life and ministry were pleasing to the God of Israel, why did it seem that God had abandoned him? The anonymous author, remembered as Matthew, portrays Jesus as another Moses, and this shows that God no more abandoned Jesus than he had abandoned Moses. Matthew exhorts his Jesus group to stand under the lordship of the risen Lord Jesus, who is a second Moses and lawgiver to his Jesus group. Jesus will come at the end to judge the Jesus group according to the new or better righteousness that he taught, just like Moses did on a mountain. What does the Transfiguration story say to us contemporary Western believers? In his honor-shame culture, Jesus maintained steadfast loyalty and trust in God, no matter how shameful his life experiences appeared. To a large degree, Jesus had no other choice in his culture. But his loyalty, that is, his biblical faith, paid off. God restored honor to him in a way that no human ever could have. My friends, our culture in the West is very different. For us, individualistic self-reliance is highly valued. It is equally challenging to trust in God, especially when we feel we are fully in control of our lives and destinies. Would that the behavior of all believers in every culture would merit divine approval, that God would say of each of us, "This is my beloved, with whom I am well pleased. Hey, listen to what this person says."